If your Google Calendar is full, but you still feel behind, you're not alone. Most business owners have a calendar, they're just not using it in a way that actually supports how their business runs. So, in this video, I want to share some simple Google Calendar tips for small business owners, not to make you busier, but to help you actually work in a way that gets things done without everything living inside your head. So, here's a mindset shift that changes everything. Your calendar is not just for meetings, it's for protecting your time and your follow through. So, when things don't make it onto the calendar, that's usually when follow ups get delayed, the admin work gets squeezed, and clients feel that inconsistency, even if they don't say it out loud. So, what I want to do is actually hop on over to my screen and share my calendar. So, what you're seeing right now is actually a demo calendar. This isn't my full calendar and it's not meant to be. Think of this as more as an ideal operating view. So, you can absolutely create a demo or ideal calendar like this for yourself. In fact, I recommend it. So, this is where you think through the core functions that actually keep your business running. So, things like client work, maybe marketing and content, maybe admin tasks, maybe reviewing your numbers or finances, whether that be weekly, monthly. For some people, it might be daily. The goal here isn't to fill every white space, it's to get really a high level view of what needs time and um where things might actually need to shift. So this is where I love to um really something that I had to learn over time was every open space on my calendar doesn't need to be filled. Say it with me. Open space on my calendar does not need to be filled. White space gives you flexibility, so it gives you room to adjust instead of like constantly reacting. So one of the first tips that I want to get into is, and this part I'll actually hop back into my screen and share my calendar. So once I open up my calendar, you're going to see that the first tip is block business tasks. So, one of the biggest challenges business owners can make is blocking time for business tasks and not just meetings. So, things like client follow ups, maybe your admin work, maybe your content creation, invoicing, or maybe there's a time that you have it blocked because you don't want to take meetings. These are the moving parts of your business. If they don't have space on the calendar, they tend to get pushed to later, and later is usually where things start to fall through the cracks. How many of us have had that? I know I have definitely been there. So I love to share that. We talk about time blocking, but just not in the way sometimes of not putting something on your calendar. So, this is one of the simplest ways to protect the revenue that's actually without actually realizing you're doing it, because consistent follow up actually builds trust, not only with clients, but also when you're building relationships with collaborations and partnerships. And trust is what keeps those clients or nurturing those relationships around. So, next thing I want to get into with your calendar is linking work where it lives. And that'll make a little bit more sense once I get inside of here. So, as I open up my calendar, another thing that I like to do when I block business tasks is link directly to where the work actually lives. So if you're using say for instance, a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, or even a project management tool like ClickUp, I will actually, once I have created my particular task, I will actually come in here and link to exactly where that work is done. So inside the description, I'll just go ahead and click link, and whatever the link address may be, I'll go ahead and place that here so that it will leave a quick link for me to just come and grab that particular task. So that way when it's time to work, I'm not searching, I click and I start. The other thing that I love to do with my calendar is definitely simplifying my event descriptions. So if you notice here, I just added like a few bullet points. What I used to do was put a lot of detail in here, and what I've learned is simpler works better. I don't need this to be a step by step instruction. I just need the most important thing I'm here to do. listed out in a way that is enough context for me to show up, and it's enough context for me to know what I'm doing and be focused and not overwhelmed. Last but not least is tip number 2. And this is where we get into color coding and personality. I also color code my calendar, and a part of me color coding my calendar is because I wear a few different hats. There may be business, family, personal. If you've ever seen my full calendar, it definitely looks like literally a bag of Skittles, is what I call it. But that's intentional. Because at a glance, even looking here, I can tell what kind of energy that day needs from me and where my focus should be. So, just to clarify something really quickly, when I say systems, I'm not talking about anything fancy. I'm actually talking about a simple way to support how you already work. And your calendar is one of the most powerful systems you already have. So, last but not least is tip number 3. And we're going to get into creating recurring blocks. So, when I hop back into the calendar, you're going to see a particular event or a task that was created, and what, for instance, if you go into weekly admin, you're going to go and click the edit button. You're able to see now that one more simple tip that makes a big difference is creating like the recurring time block. So weekly admin, maybe weekly follow-up. I use touch point Thursday. Maybe you have monthly finance check-ins. So you decide once and your calendar remembers it for you. So uh, remembering is not you're locked in. You can move a single instance of it or a single event. You can end the series when it no longer serves you. And it really just gives you the flexibility. It's not rigid. So if we look at the weekly admin, it's now scheduled for weekly on Mondays. You can customize it. You could decide that, you want it to end on a specific day or after X amount of occurrences. You can also then decide, if we go to the calendar here, it's weekly, but say next week I want it to be at 12 p.m. You can choose to move just this event. And so this is just a way to also create that flexibility. Maybe this week you need to do it on Wednesday instead of this particular time. You can now choose to just move that particular event instead of create deleting the whole thing that you've created. Now, if you ever want help applying this to your own Google Calendar or Google Workspace setup, I do offer a 1-hour advisory for business owners who want clarity without committing to a full program. And I'll actually leave that link below this video for those who may be interested. And just a quick side note, we talked about a few ways, simple ways to guardrail your calendar a bit. And I also want to add that Google Calendar has added a lot of features over time, like booking pages that can actually support, similar to like a Calendly or an Acuity. It helps to support your workflow too. That's something we'll get deeper into a separate video. Today was more of this approach to really allow your calendar to feel support. And if you also felt supported in this video, I want you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This channel is about helping business owners use the tools they already have without making things more complicated. So now you've seen how Google Drive, Google Sheets, and Google Calendar can actually work together within your business. In the next video, we'll talk about how to connect these tools so the information doesn't get lost between them. And as always, I'm cheering you on. Love y'all.